All right, let's do it live on a First Friday Miracle edition of the program. Merely Bo, the Great Z. How you living? Try it.
Good?
You got it.
Yeah, baby. I wasn't getting any feedback on those taps, up or down.
Up or down now.
So now
you're
we're
in the mix.
Now it's all there.
I would
it's
just
all
tell
happening. It's game week.
Game week. We've got the voice on in like 15 minutes.
Yes.
So this is fantastic news to have the voice on.
Yes.
When I walked in here today,
Yeah.
and I see the felt pens,
Oh, baby.
and I see the boards, there's a coding system. There are notes.
Oh, yeah.
It's all happening, brother.
Hard to read, though, to be perfectly honest with you.
Is it too much? You got too much going on. There's too many kids.
There's too many people. And I think that I've realized, like, last year at this time, I was so pumped because I was like, oh, my God, I'm doing a preseason game, and I was so juiced. And then this year I'm like 180 people, and, like, there's just not enough. I would need a board, like, the size of this desk to really be able to see what I've written. So I've just kind of made some information, but more kind of like little notes to myself of things that I already know in my brain that will make me bring that up at times. And then where I was able to get into, like, so you still have the back. That's where I can get all the good stuff on Mond and DTR, and, you know, where I need a little bit more than the one line that the preseason affords you for a player. I'll get that in there. So it's good. It's good. Yeah, feeling good with it. Excited that we got a game. Excited we're going to have the voice on. Excited to be back in the booth with him, which I think is going to be awesome. So many people have been asking, and, you know, you'll hear straight from the horse's mouth in about 13 minutes or so. But
we also hear about horses.
You get it all. Horse content.
You're going to get that too.
You're going to get it all. So, yeah, it's good. The felt pens are nice. I've noticed the coaches have a nice stash, and I think at this point I've befriended enough of them that I'll be able to be like, yo, can you?
Oh, they've got a nice.
We used to have these.
Them,
no,
and then
not
gone. Goners. Yeah,
not anymore.
Absolutely goners. So we don't have those anymore. So that was very good to see those. To see the felt tips with you. Have you seen a game played down there? Have you been to a game there?
No.
It was a high school game, admittedly, but since they've done the renovations, I was at a high school game down there, and pretty great.
I'm excited
to watch a football game.
I'm excited.
Every seat's great. Small venue, obviously,
right,
compared to what we're used to.
Intimate.
But, like, very intimate. But, you know, you're all on top of it. And you're going to get, you know, like, I mean, this isn't false hope. Like, you're going to get to see two young quarterbacks, one of which is going to have a chance to be the long-term backup solution to Deshaun Watson here, and potentially could develop in this offense under something else in this organization, perhaps an asset and a starter somewhere else down the road. That would be the objective, whether it be Mond or DTR. And on the other side, like, Zach Wilson's going to play.
Yeah, number two pick in the
draft.
He started. I mean, he's like, you look at it, and from that standpoint, you're gonna get Zach Wilson, you're gonna get Tim Boyle, who, if Browns fans remember, Tim Boyle, TB12 they called him, was the starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions in a game that was played here at First Energy in some not great conditions that the Browns were able to come out on top. So you're going to get their two quarterbacks who will play, have both started games in the National Football League. And maybe we'll see Chris Steveler, the third-year man out of South Dakota, later on. But Wilson started, second overall pick. Boyle has started games as well in his fifth season in the league. And so their quarterbacks have more game experience than ours. This will be the first time. You know, Kellen Mond, I think, has thrown 2 passes for 5 yards, or completed 2 passes for 5 yards, and back in his rookie season with Minnesota and some mop-up duty. But this will be the most extensive action they've seen, and you're going against, and neither one of them started a game. Obviously, DTR is a rookie. Now, both played a ton in college, a ton.
Yep.
But that'll be interesting to see. And I think that's good for our defense, our young guys, because you're going to be playing guys that, whether they have, you know, in the case of Boyles, had to bounce around, or in the case of, you know, Zach Wilson, they said, okay, going into year 3 as the number 2 overall pick, not good enough, we're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers. These are guys who have played NFL defenses before and have had, at least on some level, some modicum of success.
Yeah, and for me, preseason, whether we're in it or not, what I get excited about is show me the young guys.
Yeah.
You know, what do the young guys look like? So from our vantage point, you get the 2 quarterbacks we're talking about. You get to see Cedric Tillman, who had a great catch yesterday in practice, sensational catch down the sidelines.
Yeah.
So you're going to get those type of things that you can say, hey, well, let's see how this looks. So that there's big value in that. And I think from a fan perspective, there's big entertainment in that.
Yeah. Well, I want to see, too. You get Dorian Thompson-Robinson sometime in the second half. I'd like to see him with Felton in the backfield, Cedric Tillman there in the huddle. And you think about, he played with Demetric Felton at UCLA. Yeah. he went to high school with and played with Cedric Tillman. So that'll be some familiarity. I think that'll be fun for all three of them to get an opportunity to do that. Those are the kind of little stories that are fun about this game. I'm excited to see Luke Whippler and DeJuan Jones, the two Buckeye linemen that the Browns drafted, see what they can do. And going back to Tillman, and one of the things I was going through getting ready here, I knew that his dad had played in the NFL. Did you know who his dad played with in college?
Oklahoma?
No. Air McNair at Alcorn State.
Oh, my
His
gosh,
dad was catching passes from Air McNair.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I think that there are plenty of guys on this Browns team that are really names that are fighting. Anthony Schwartz. It's kind of now or never, right? And right now I'd say he's a long shot, but he goes out and torches everybody in these games. Maybe you rethink things. David Bell I don't think is in any type of jeopardy with his roster spot per se, being a third rounder last year, but you want to see him go and look like the guy that was the Big Ten receiver of the year. I think it's for Demetric Felton and John Kelly. John Kelly's been on our practice squad basically since 2020. Felton was 6th round pick in 21. Those two guys are trying to say, no, I can be that third running back. You don't need to go outside to get that third running back. And there's a running back on the Jets who, if they do sign Dalvin Cook, and surprising that's taken a little bit longer, but that Michael Carter, the young man out of North Carolina, is somebody who could be released if they make that. They drafted Abanaconda out of Pitt, who I think I like a lot. That guy's a stud. We'll see a lot of him in this game. But with Breece Hall, Zonovan Knight, and then if they have, the draft pick in doubt, they're going to cut a running back. And Michael Carter's a name that people think would maybe have a good chance to end up here with the Cleveland Browns. So he's somebody to keep an eye on.
He was nice at Carolina. He was on that team with Sam Howell and Javante. They were all our guy before the injuries all happened. I know that because I watch a lot of ACC.
Yeah, you do. How your depth? I'm sure it's like you in the ACC, and me in the Pac-12. That's why we take our knowledge around the country. Obviously, you're the Big Ten guy, duh. But yeah, sometimes you gotta just let people know. You know what? I like that Pac-12 football.
I liked it. I thought it was perfect. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I'll tell you this: it is true. If there is any college football that I watch,
I'm for it.
It's Pac-12. That's it. Sometimes we're on the road in the hotels. That's the only thing that's on at like 11 o'clock at night.
You know what? You're not going to be able to watch it anymore.
Because it doesn't exist.
Well, for now it does, but not for much longer. The best they could do was what amounts to about a $20 million a year deal, Apple Plus only, with a subscription model. No. So your conference is over. That's the end of it. Yeah. The board meeting at the university or at Arizona, which actually I didn't realize this, the Arizona board oversees both Arizona and Arizona State. The quote coming out of that was, "This is not a viable option for programs with options." So sounds like both Arizonas could be Big 12 bound quickly.
The fact of the matter is Arizona bear down Zago, the start of my
great Zago.
At the original 6-pack, and then to the Pac-10, and then to the Pac-12. My affinity has spanned many, many decades. Big 12's a good place for them because the fact is it's a basketball school.
Good hoops, man.
And it'll be, now you'll be them and you get Kansas and Baylor.
Texas Tech played for a national championship 2 years ago. Oklahoma State's been good
in recent
years. You got West Virginia.
You're going to get some good hoops there. Yeah. That's going to be the hoops conference.
That's what they're just trying to they're the catch-all. They might go upwards to 30 teams, and they're just going to say, we don't have any of the best, but we got everything else.
I would, and tell me if I'm wrong, though, that would be the best basketball conference, wouldn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So that's just what they need to focus. That's what they are.
But the football drives the bus, and they would be well down the list on the football side of things.
Well, unless you get those defections out of the ACC that were rumored, then all of a sudden
that doesn't make sense.
SEC, Big 10, and Big 12, distant third.
The stuff coming out of it doesn't make sense because the money would have those people down there, like the guy with the Florida State Board of Trustees who's making all these comments, like he's talking as if he has a Big 10 or SEC offer.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, then it doesn't make sense. Because
what if he does?
It would be so stupefying from a Big 10 perspective. It would go against everything that they've talked about for decades with expansion, other than football. Like that's the one thing, which trumps all.
Yeah.
But they've always held back. I mean, the reason they have Maryland and Rutgers and those is because of the other things sometimes having more power than the football side of things.
I'm just saying, Clemson and Florida State.
Oh, that'd be a big boost.
Pretty good in the old Big 10.
There's all sorts of rumors. Luckily I have a platform where I did this for 3 hours this morning.
I bet.
All this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
did you dive into the ACC and any Pac-12 action?
I did spend a lot. I thought about having you on just so you could give me like a breakdown of this year's Pac-10.
Yeah.
Pac-9,
Pac-12.
rather.
Well, now, yeah.
Well, Pac-10 for this year.
For this year.
Who knows what it'll be going forward. They should have just stayed Pac-10. That was their big
Pac-10
mistake.
was the best.
That was the name. I know they were the Pac-8 before it, but they should have
They were the
stayed
six-pack
Pac-10.
originally, right? Weren't they?
Yeah, was it USC, UCLA, Cal, Stanford? I'm not sure who the other 6 would have been.
Maybe Arizona.
Other 2?
Arizona State?
Could be. I don't know. All right, so we have a Hall of Fame game tomorrow. We had a walkthrough this morning, and then they will meet the rest of the day, and then tomorrow we will go down to Canton and play the game. And that's the way that thing's going to get going. It's fun to get it going. I'm not blowing smoke. I think there's a lot of fun for a Browns fan in this game, other than the fact that the Hoff will be there, and we're all there to honor the Hoff and his Hoffness. I do think that this is a fun one with the quarterbacks and Wilson on their side. Like Tillman is fun to watch. Go ahead.
All right, so it actually started with Cal, Oregon, Oregon State, the University of Washington in the year 1915. Then they expanded in 1970 to include Washington State and Stanford. And then it would go on and you would add in USC and UCLA in the 1920s. So the original 6 were Cal, Washington, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford. Then you added USC and UCLA by 1928. And
that's a long time that they've had that core of teams.
Yeah.
And then they added the Arizonas later.
And then you got the Arizonas in there later.
Yeah. So they had those core 8 for a long time.
Yeah.
And all about to disintegrate. All right, lots to get to on the program, including The Voice, who will join us coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily.
Let's go.
Brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner, your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For a team of injury lawyers dedicated to every client every day, call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of the Cleveland Browns. With that, we head out on the Twisted Tea hotline for the voice of the Cleveland Browns. He's the great Jim Donovan. It is brought to you by Twisted Tea, hard iced tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. I'll be damned, Jim, if we're not going to start where I want to start, and that's on the ponies and the Ponderosa. How's everything going this summer?
You know what? Way to go. That's the way we always leave this
right.
off. Everything's going good. Myself and the horses, we've had a lot of time together over the last couple of months. And if this was an episode, if they were remaking the television show Mr. Ed, because Mr. Ed could talk, I think if our horses could talk, I think they would say, hey, Jim, is it about time you go and do a football game and we kind of get a little space? And I agree with them.
That is music to everybody's ears.
Yeah, and the good news is the answer is yes. Tomorrow. So
the answer is yes. Yeah,
let everybody know how you're doing, and obviously everywhere I go, the first thing people ask me is not about the football team. It's how's Jim doing? How's Jim doing? And I think that we're very fortunate that we've got some good news. So Jim, please let everybody know what's going on and that they can expect from you tomorrow night.
Well, I got to tell you, it's like a Super Bowl for me tomorrow night because it's been a long road. And I'm doing really well. I really am. And everything that has had to happen has really fallen into place because I've got the best of medical minds at the Seidman Cancer Center at University Hospitals. And those doctors and those nurses have all been with me and pushing me. And I said to them, hey, listen, I'd really love to be ready to go, to do the Hall of Fame game. And they said, that's exactly what the plan is going to be. And lo and behold, I'll be there tomorrow night. But medically, things are going well. I mean, I have had an awful lot of chemotherapy, and it's rugged and it's tough, but it has been effective. But this is only a major step, and I think they're very pleased. I have gone into, in cancer terms, I have gone into a remission state, which is a real victory right now. Yes. There's another stage to this that is going to have to fall in place. So in football terms, I would put it this way. It's halftime, and I'm ahead.
God bless.
We love
God bless you, buddy.
Yes.
As you're pointing, I thought it's interesting. You said it's your Super Bowl, and of course, you've called so many big things over the course of your career. But I also understand that too, because I imagine that this is something that you have pointed towards while you're going through this treatment, this normalcy of doing what you love and what you're the very best, I think, in the world at, which is calling football games.
Yeah, Bo, you really, for anybody that is going through this in whatever walk of life they have chosen, you really do need goals. Because you have to be able to get to the line, the finish line, hopefully, or the midpoint line. And it's important to really set a goal for yourself. And this was a goal for me, was to be okay and really showing progress and to be able to kind of get back to my life. And I've been able to do that, and it's been good, and it's been a lot of work, and I've got an amazing family. But I will tell you, too, Browns fans and you guys on the show, and the Browns organization, they've, been kind of the wind in my sails, too, because they really push you to, hey, listen, get better. We're all pulling for you. We're praying for you. And it really makes you, really take a seat and say, gosh, you have so many people that really care about you.
Yeah.
And you really have to do everything they tell you to do so you can get better. And I certainly have. Whatever the instructions are, I do them twofold.
There's no doubt that's the way that you apply yourself to everything you do, which is why you are so successful and are the voice of the Cleveland Browns that you are. And it is great. It's great. I'm so excited. Got to see Jim earlier today. He was out here doing some interviews. As I said, he looks stout. He looks good. So I'm pumped to get back in there with you. And hopefully we have a lot of fun things to call and, talk about this year. Obviously, the Hall of Fame game is very different. We're not going to see any of the starters. This is not going to be Deshaun Watson against Aaron Rodgers. But some young guys who have a chance maybe to make an impact and make this roster. So what are you kind of just looking for going into this one from the Browns? And then overall, just kind of your thoughts right now on this team as we get ready for the 2023 season.
Well, it will be, magic being back up in the booth with you and Gerard down on the sideline and Jason Gibbs and our whole broadcasting family. That's going to be great. I will tell you this before, you talk about the football part. I think, Nathan, and everybody that wasn't there in 1999 when the team came back and their first game back was the Hall of Fame game. I think the first thing you're going to feel is an electricity. And I know the game is held every year and different teams are there. But when you bring the Cleveland Browns down to play in the Hall of Fame game, it is really something. And I will never forget in 1999 when those orange helmets came out of the locker room and started to come down this mini hill onto the playing field. I have to tell you, it was just one of the most emotional times because so many people, millions of people, did so much work to get the team back. So I think with the Joe Thomas part of the equation and the Browns being there, and the recognition earlier on the day coming up on Thursday of the life of Jim Brown, I think you're going to feel an awful lot of emotion and electricity that maybe isn't in the game year to year if you just have the New Orleans Saints playing, the Miami Dolphins. So it's going to be very special. Now, as far as the football thing is concerned, some player, hopefully more than one, is going to make a name for himself tomorrow night. It just always happens, and it might be an undrafted free agent that just really pops. Josh Cribbs had it happen in a preseason game that really put him on the map. Somebody's going to be able to do it. DeAnthony Bell last year, the kid that was undrafted and came in and, really fought his way through the waves of players on the roster. Yeah. And all of a sudden he started to make plays in games, and that's what you look for tomorrow night. Plus, when you see young quarterbacks come out and get their first opportunity like Tim Couch did in 1999 and Dorian Thompson-Robinson will tomorrow, that's a very special moment, too, for him and for everybody else.
I'm just struck by the full circle feeling of it, of 99 and that first time that that the Cleveland Browns had taken the football field after all they had been through, and you were there and you experienced the emotion of that. And then you think about the full circle, Jim, of Joe Thomas, the first modern era Brown, or this incarnation of the Browns, going into the Hall of Fame. Like, if you think about the things that have been best about this organization over a 20-plus year period, you and Joe are at the top of that list. Deeks listens, so probably Deke, too. I mean, we'll give Deke a little bit of love. My man Z over here. But, I mean, like, Joe has been the kind of the point of excellence through all of this. And so to have a Brown go in to see Joe down there, and we all know what type of human he is, boy, that you talk about electricity, I think you're going to get that in spades tomorrow.
Absolutely. He was such a perfect fit for us here in Cleveland and for the football team and the organization and the position of left tackle. I mean, he was perfection. He really was. And I know he strove for that every time he went out onto the football field. And a lot of times it had to be personal because the team-wise, didn't measure up to what his talent was at his particular craft. But I will tell you this, he's a very, very special part of Cleveland because he really embraced the town and the town embraced him. What a perfect choice that was. If you could do that all the time in the draft, if you could pick a guy and then you take him number 3 overall in the draft and you put him out at a position like left tackle, and then you come back 11 years later and you say, wow, that worked out really well, we'd be at parades in February a lot because that's the kind of player he was. And so I think a lot of people are really excited about that. And you're right. I mean, we haven't had a lot to crow about in the new era of the Cleveland Browns. We've been through a lot of different weaving and bobbing, but not with Joe Thomas. It was steady as you go, straight ahead, just a perfect player and a perfect player in Cleveland.
It's exactly right. And this is going to be a celebration of him. And obviously you hope this football team goes out there and puts in a performance, befitting of a guy like the Hoff. And you think that, the Browns draft DeJuan Jones, a guy named Thanos, who plays the tackle position. And this will be his first opportunity in a Browns uniform. You just hope that that's something kind of special there. And I think this is going to be an incredible week for this organization. And really kind of all the football eyes will be on the Cleveland Browns. And I think it'll be fun for these young guys to know that the whole eyes of the league and everybody are on them in this game. But when you think about this team, Jim, and you think about what this year could be, kind of where are you? Well, they were away in the Greenbrier.
Yeah.
They've come back, and I got a chance to talk with Coach Stefanski. But kind of when you look at this roster on paper and you look at this coaching staff with the additions of Jim Schwartz and Bubba Ventrone, it feels like it's all there. What do you make of this team as we sit right here very early in this training camp process?
Well, it looks really good, and it really does. And I think the adding of those two coordinators in those areas are going to really help a great deal. I think that defense is really talented, but it needs to play better, and it should play better. And I know he coaches, he being Jim Schwartz, he coaches hard. I think that unit needs to be coached hard to bring it out of them, because it's there. It just has to be brought out of them. Special teams the same way. If the special teams unit performs the way Bubba Ventrone performed himself as a player, we'll be fine, because he was that great at it and was really a decider in some moments in games when special teams had to do that, and he was able to do that as a player, and I know he's brought that to his coaching career, so that is good too. But, Nathan, as I was talking to you earlier in the day, and I'll say it here, I think that you take a look at that roster, and it's ready to win.
Yep.
Now the thing is, and this is a big step, I think, for them, and it has been a tough step for them. I think when you go each and every Sunday, I think the game is sitting there on the table for either team, the Browns and whoever they're playing on that particular day. And the Browns have got to learn to be the team that makes the play and takes the game at that point in the ball game. I mean, it didn't matter last year whether it was Jacoby Brissett or the last 6 games with Deshaun Watson. If you really go through those games, each one of them was sitting there on the table, and they just too many times were not able to take the game away from the opposition. And they're going to have to learn how to do that. Now, they've brought in players who have done that in other stops, and maybe that's going to help. But I think that's what has to happen here. That's the wall they have to break through. Once they do it, I think, they'll take off, because then their talent kicks in with the confidence that, hey, listen, we've been here before. We now know how to do it. This is the way to do it. And then you do it. And I think that's where we are.
How helpful do you think, or do you hope, I think is maybe even a better word, that, you bring in a Juan Thornhill who's won 2 Super Bowls, has only had a season end at either the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. You have brought in Rodney McLeod, who won a Super Bowl, Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz won the Super Bowl, obviously, there with the Philadelphia Eagles. You bring in Obo Okoronkwo, who won a Super Bowl with the Rams. And so now you've got some guys, 3 of them added to this defense, all of whom will play meaningful roles for this team, who know what it takes to win at the highest level. And I think that's that fine line, right? That's the difference. Those teams that are able to end those 5 plays a game, be on the right side of 3 of them and win the game ultimately. How helpful do you hope that will be, and do you think that could be something that helps this Browns team be a team that's able to snatch those victories off the table?
Yeah, I really do. I think you're right, and I think it is important, and I think it's important to have those guys on the field at that moment that you and I are talking about, that moment when the game is winnable, okay? The coaches can do everything they can possibly do, but they're on the sideline. Okay, these guys are going to be on the field. They're going to be in that huddle. They're going to be facing that crowd over in Pittsburgh when the place is going crazy, or over in Baltimore. And they're going to have to settle down the other 10 guys that are along with them and kind of pull them through it until everybody is able to do this. So I think it is really important. I harken back to, I thought it was important when the Browns a long time ago brought Jamal Lewis in at running back. He was at the tail end of his career, but he gave them a great year, the year they went 10-6, and I think he helped them at times because he had played in big games in Baltimore. Joe Juravicius was a really good guy for guys like Braylon Edwards and Kellen Winslow Jr. that they needed to grow up, because Joe had played on that great Tampa team, and it had been with the Giants before that. Those are the kind of guys that really helped them on those particular Browns teams in those dicey moments where young players can say, I don't know if we can do this. And then too many times we say, well, we didn't do it. And then we're reflecting back on what went wrong. Suddenly you got to have guys to get them to the point where this went right, and we can all do this now.
Jim, I'm interested if you have. This happens to me. It happened to me last night walking the dog in the neighborhood. It happens to me 5 or 6 times a day. I'm sure it happens to Z all the time. I'm sure it happens to you. This is the way that the conversation goes. Guy comes up to me. How do the Browns look? I say, well, they look great. I mean, they're pretty loaded. I think they have the most talent they've had since the late '80s. And they go, oh yeah, but same old Browns or whatever. And I'm like, so I finally at a point where I'm like stopping them. I'm like, listen, I don't know what happened, exactly from 05 to 16. You lived through it. Nathan lived through a lot of it. What I can tell you, though, is you have to accept that the talent on this roster is more than any talent that has been here since 1988 or 89 or what. It's been a long time. I think that's a fair statement. And it can also be true that this is the toughest AFC we've ever seen.
Yes.
And so even if you have it all, it might not be enough to go beat Kansas City in an AFC championship game. That's how hard it is. And I'm just curious, like, when that happens to you, how do you describe that circumstance? How do you answer that question?
Yeah. I kind of answer it the same way you answer it. I mean, I think that people feel that you're so close when you say, well, listen, they're really good. They look great on paper. They've made some great additions. Watson's going to be 1,000% probably better than he was in the games last year. Certainly understandable. Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb. Jim Schwartz is here. That defense is going to finally have some real sharp teeth to it. All of that sounds good. And then there's you say that, but I think a lot of people then, because they've been worn down, I think, by the disappointment through the years, I think then people think, well, you're so close to the team, of course you're going to say that. But I think then they just have to take, the fact that really you're telling them what you see, and what you see is, yes, your closeness allows you to be around them a great deal, but it really does look good, and it does look different than it has in the past, and that they just look better than they have, and they look more talented, and they look deeper. There's a starter, and there might be two other guys behind that starter who could certainly go in and play if needed to. And so I just think that the proof is seeing it. Everybody needs to see it. They need to see it against Cincinnati on opening day, and the month of September is going to give you a very, very good view of how this is going to go, with those 4 games and those 3 games being in the division. And so I think people really do, Bo, want to get excited about it, but I think they've been worn down a little bit by the team and the franchise not meeting expectations, and the disappointment of the Mayfield short era, OBJ, things like that, they're just saying, okay, I'm going to just take a half step back. I'm ready to get on the bandwagon, and we're ready to welcome them to it. There's plenty of seats. Come on aboard.
That's right.
They have to see it play out.
And that's exactly right.
Yeah, we know that.
That's
we say that all the time.
That's what I say to people now. I say, it's all there. Deshaun looks great. He's so much more comfortable. We talked about. They loaded up the defense. We've got a pass rush. We got a great back end. We got Jim Schwartz. We got Nick Chubb. We got the best offensive line in football. We've got 3 receivers now who you feel great about in Amari and Elijah Moore and DPJ. You got the Chief. You brought in Akins. You brought in Goodwin, and hopefully, knock on wood, he's able to go. It's all there. This is a team that's going to be it's binary. Do they win or do they not? And to your guys, both of your point, I talked with Juan Thornhill while we were at the Greenbrier, and he said to me, position for position, this is the most talented team I've been on. He said, I haven't even told the team that yet, but he goes, if you break it down by position, this is the most talented team I've been on. And he said, obviously they had Pat Mahomes, but there's no reason why this team can't be great. What's just insane about what's going on right now is and we've said it, the numbers before, there are 13 teams in the AFC right now that believe fully that they're going to the playoffs, and there are 8 teams in the AFC alone right now that fully believe they have a team that can win the Super Bowl. So it's going to come down to the teams that do it. And that's what this Browns team is going to be judged on. Do they do it? Do they, in those moments that you so eloquently described earlier, are they the team that sees those moments, that come through in the clutch, get that momentum, that belief, and then be able to actually maximize their talent? And if they can, the sky's the limit for this team. There's nothing that this team cannot accomplish.
Yeah, Doug Deacon tells a great story about that magical cardiac kid year back in 1980. And the evolution of Brian Sipe at quarterback. And he said it just got to a point that week in and week out, they knew they were going to be up against it in the fourth quarter, whether they were at the old stadium or wherever they were that year playing on the road. They knew they were going to be in trouble in the fourth quarter. It was just, that's the way the script read. But they also knew that he walked into that huddle, and it was last drive time, and they needed a touchdown, and he would walk into that huddle as cool as a cucumber, and they were very cool along with him because they knew that it was going to be okay. And that's exactly what he would say. He would walk in, and he would say, all right, listen, we got to go down and score, which we are going to do, and we'll do it this way. And that's, I think, the step that the Browns hopefully are right on the doorstep of being able to walk through that door and be able to be like that. And I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. It is so great to talk to you, sir. We can't wait. Z can't wait to work with you tomorrow. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Can't wait to hear you on the call. It is great to hear you're doing well, and always special when you join us. Give our best to the ponies.
I will. I'm only feet away from them. I'll definitely do that. Hey, thanks for having me on, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
All right. The great Jim Donovan, the voice of the Cleveland Browns, joining on the Twisted Tea Hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. For more on that, Alex Van Pelt at the podium coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns 2023 schedule is here. Get your single game tickets now for all the great matchups at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/tickets to purchase yours today. And now let's head to the podium. Offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt.
You're down.
Practices at the Greenbrier.
Just took off right where he was when he left the mini camp, really. He did a lot of great things there at the end of the spring and picked up right where he left off. So we got a lot of good work there.
With Amari and Marquise being out for at least part of that time down there, what did you see out of some of the younger guys stepping up, and what were you thinking?
Sure, I thought Elijah had an outstanding camp. He's a guy that can do a lot of things, very skilled receiver, inside, outside, can do stuff out of the backfield. That was impressive to see. For a rookie, I thought Cedric had a really good camp, coming in and learning the system. Putting all the pieces together, had some mistakes, but really made some plays on the ball, which was good to see. Dalen Baldwin's Mr. Reliable. He's out there. He can play him in multiple positions. So those young guys got a lot of good reps and did some good stuff.
Alex, how do you go about kind of filling that void that Marquise was supposed to fill, right? That deep threat, the guy that stretches the field.
Sure. Well, we just got to find somebody else that can come in and do it. We have able bodies on the roster right now. Schwartzy's a guy that can take the top off. Jalen Darden's a guy that can take the top off. Elijah, when we need him to, can take the top off. So we have bodies for that style of play. Hopefully we can get Marquise back and everything's going to be okay there. But
it looked like in the full speed red zone drills that the defense might have had it better.
Of course, yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. No, and I told the guys this morning, it's hard. It's hard down there. You get inside that 5-yard line, that 8-yard line, and it's a pass drill. It's skeleton. The situations, we had 4-point plays the other day. We're not going to hand the ball off from the 8 to Nick Chubb and let him run in. So it is hard. The space is smaller. The open receivers aren't as open. There's contested catches. There's high balls in the back of the end zone, and it's a good challenge for us. We are going to continue to, get good at what we do exactly. And then when they play great coverage, it's hard to win down there in tight spaces. But I told the guys this morning, again, we're not game planning against our defense. We're not trying to change plays to win the drill. We're going to run our plays and get really good at those. And then remember, hey, we have running backs. We have things we're going to do down in there, not just drop back and throw the ball every time. Absolutely.
Alex, I know you guys are still a work in progress, but what do you like about this offensive group right now? What are they doing well right now?
Work is the first thing. I know we're a work in progress, but those guys come out and they work every day. It's really been impressive. We've had some really, really good two-spot walkthroughs in the afternoon periods where the young guys get to go over and call the same plays that the ones are on the other field. We've worked blitz, we've worked no huddle, QB runs. We've done all kinds of stuff. I think just, what we've got accomplished in that short time of 8 days, I think we feel really good that it was very productive.
Anthony Schwartz had a tough year last year. What is his attitude like?
Good. He comes out and works when he gets out there, he flies around and he definitely shows you the speed that you need. It's just, he's just got to make the plays when they come to him, and he will.
With Elijah, obviously you guys are using him all over the place. What do you like best about him when he's lined up in the backfield?
His ability to, one, carry the ball and then run routes out of that backfield. Maybe, if they want to leave a linebacker in the game and try to match up with that, obviously the advantage would go to him. But he does a lot of good things out of the backfield. We had Randall Cobb in Green Bay, and he was in the backfield a lot as a ball carrier, as a bubble catcher, all the things you can do, free release him, motion him out, and create empties. So he has that versatility where you can hand him the ball as well.
Do you think you need to hand it to him, like your defense is to respect that he might get the ball?
I would think so. I think so, yeah.
Number 80 plays full season in the spring.
Watkins, yes.
Does he look like a player to you?
Really impressive. Came in late and really picked up the offense. Very few mental errors. Seems to have a good grasp of it. Makes plays when they come to him, and he's another guy that can run. So I've been impressed with his ability to pick up the offense as quickly as he has.
Alex, I'm sure it's like this with most quarterbacks because rotation is great. But, I do see Deshaun doing so many different things after practice, working on just arm angles and hand things, footwork, and all that kind of stuff. Is he way up there just in terms of grinding and working extra and other things? I
saw the same thing you saw. Those are drills that he stays out late. I think he was maybe one or two guys left on the field the other day. That's really the guys that are great are the guys that are motivated to work until they've finished the day, and his day didn't finish when practice was over. So you want your leaders to set that example and work extra hard, especially at that position.
The opportunity seems to be knocking for Jerome Ford to be that number 2 back behind him. Just what have you seen from him, and what dimension do you think he can bring in that role?
Yeah, I see a young player that's really matured over the offseason and starting to come into his own as far as his understanding of the system, especially in the protection phase. He has the ability also to come out of the backfield and make plays in the pass game, and he has some really great feet and vision in the run game. So excited to see him as we move forward. I feel very comfortable with him as our backup right now.
Yeah, on that, how would you look at it? It seemed like a diminished value of running backs. When you look at Dalvin Cook, Kareem, Ezekiel, how do you see that diminished value?
That's not really in my area. I know we have a good one, and I'm happy that we do. That's where that is. It seems to have devalued over the past 10 years, but I guess I would say if you went into a season and didn't have a running back, you'd be in bad shape. So we're fortunate that we have a great one here.
I know Jordan Akins hasn't practiced the last couple of days, but what does he add to this offensive passing game?
His strength obviously is in the pass game, his ability to run vertically with speed, and his ability to make plays on the ball. His hands are strong. Had a big catch over top of a defender the other day, things like that. He runs really good routes, strong hands.
Alex, we're probably going to see a lot of Kellen and DTR on Thursday. What have you seen out of both of them in terms of their maturation, their growth?
Sure.
That you're kind of excited to see, out there on Thursday.
Absolutely. Both those guys have had a really good camp. They've had limited reps at times, kind of switching days back and forth between who gets those set of reps. For DTR, it's just continue to grow. Kellen's a little bit of ahead as far as mentally being in the system longer, but both those guys, they go out there, they're exceptional with their footwork, their timing, and their ability to get through progression. So excited to see that live, and then add the element of them using their legs as well. I think it's going to be a fun night.
Alex, I was going to ask you about Deshaun using his legs. What is your philosophy in terms of how much should he run? Do you have to strike a balance between keeping him safe and letting him use that talent that he has? How do you approach it?
It's a natural thing for him. When he feels that he goes, I think that's something that's fine with us. Always encouraging him to continue through the progression. Don't skip a step, and then if you get to the last part of that progression and there's nothing there, then take off. So continue to coach through the progression, and then allowing him to be special enough when he does escape.
Alex, how do you feel about your young guys and offensive tackle, high starters? How important is Thursday in that evaluation?
It is. It's good, and it's great that they're getting the reps Thursday. The practices have been great. Again, can't say enough about James Hudson. He's a guy now in year 3 that's really figured it out and really matured as becoming a really good pro. And then Wheatley on the other side's done a really nice job.
30.
I like our depth there. It'll be important in these preseason games to see them play.
Alex, to go back to Cedric, I think when you guys drafted him, I think it was Andrew described his demeanor as he's going to work first and not really talk. I guess have you seen that through these early practices?
1,000%. He just goes out and grinds, does a great job. All those receivers we had to practice the other day, their effort down the field blocking, it was inspiring to make sure we pointed it out to everybody to see those guys. They work hard. CO does a great job with those guys getting them ready to play, and Ced's a guy that's he's not going to say anything. He's going to go out and do his job. Thanks, guys.
You're up.
All right, there's AVP.
Yeah,
you're there. AVP from the podium yesterday. One thing that I noticed, it's just a tremendous difference. It's one that you don't think about that much unless you're just around it a lot. And obviously you noticed it, but you had a whole week more training camp than I did. One thing that jumped out to me is you're all running the same stuff. Last year it was really 2 offenses that you had to create. And now, and by the way, Jacoby Brissett was awesome. He was an awesome human and an awesome leader. He played great. But the offense then was different than what you would have done had you had Watson the whole time, obviously. Different skill set. And now they're all kind of mirrors of what Watson is.
And the hard part, too, was you mentioned Jacoby played great and was a heck of a leader. And so Deshaun Watson, as the star quarterback, is the leader of the team, but he had to take a back seat to Jacoby because it was Jacoby's team for 11 games. And this year, everything is all moving in one direction, offensively, leadership-wise, all of it. And I think that's why you're seeing, an offense that is going to be better this year. I think you're really going to see that when Deshaun Watson takes the field, as Jim Donovan said, it'll be 1,000%. Yes, he is going to be significantly better and look like the 3-time Pro Bowler who once led the NFL in passing. And when you pair that with this defense, that's why you can get excited about this football team. But again, it's going to come down to them going out there and doing it and being what they are on paper. As Jim Schwartz said, and I love it, when he said, we know we've made it when the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's when you've got a football team that can do something. And that's what the Browns, that's the goal for this year. That's what this is all about. All of this work that's being put in, brick by brick by brick, is to that end. And certainly we all hope that's how it ultimately pans out, right, for this football team.
I also think that, it's two separate conversations. There is a conversation that can be had now, and I encourage you as fans to have it, of being excited about Elijah Moore and being excited about what's happening in the secondary or what's happening in the front side of this defense, what's happening in camp with the catch that Tillman had yesterday that happened right in front of us, with the way that Watson looks. All of you can be excited about all of those things. And that's one fun plane of conversation. On another one that's playing out horizontally along with it, parallel along with it, is that one that you just mentioned, which is we know it has to happen in the regular season. But you can have fun along that path. Everything doesn't have to be, well, what are they going to do against Cincinnati? We all know that. Everybody in the building knows that. Everybody in the NFL knows that. What are you going to do against Cincinnati? What are you going to do against Pittsburgh? You got Tennessee and Baltimore to start, first 4. All of that. Last year we said, you got it first 6. What's the record got to be? We'll do all of that stuff again. All of that stuff is the heavy stuff. But in week 2 of full camp, you can have these little victories. And by the way, just because Elijah Moore is great and he's been great, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a 1,500-yard receiver. He's not going to be. That's not in the cards. But he's just something we haven't had before around here in a while. So it's okay to be excited about that and also understand that doesn't mean we're giving him a gold jacket.
Right, and I think that's very fair. And, we've seen in training camps before where guys have come in and, it looked like, for example, Austin Hooper's first year, that Austin Hooper was going to catch 1,000 balls and score 20 touchdowns. And then that never manifested itself in the regular season. But I think this time you have a team that is going to put the ball in the air a lot more. And, yes, Elijah has looked great. And there's so many easy, what I would call long layups or long handoff ways to get the football into his hands. And so you get him the ball in his hands, get him in space, give him an opportunity to make plays. But you got Donovan, you got Amari, you got David Njoku. I don't think people realize, or maybe it feels like kind of have forgotten. Amari Cooper had 78 catches, 1,160 yards, and 9 touchdowns last year. He averaged 15 yards a catch, which was the second highest of his career. The 9 touchdowns were the highest of his career. He's going to get a ton of targets. DPJ was over 800 yards last year. He's only gotten better every year. He's going to get a lot of targets. The Chief last year had a career-high 58 catches, 620 yards. That was the second most of his career. And then now you add in, and really it was a 3-person receiving core. Now you add in that 4th guy, Elijah Moore. Now you add in, hopefully Marquise Goodwin, who's going to give you, probably 300 to 400 yards, but do it at 15-plus yards a catch a couple of touchdowns, create space for everybody. Do I think Watson's going to throw for the 4,800 yards that he did when he led the league in passing, playing in a dome on a team that was behind a lot? No. But should he go over 4,000 yards this year? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there's stuff out there for people to go get. But we've got, I think, a lot of mouths to feed. And I think what you're going to see is a team that on a week-to-week basis, you're going to be able to exploit whatever is left over from what the opponent's trying to take away. Because we're finally an offense where you just can't take it all away.
Yeah, and I do think as you were going through
Nick Chubb.
As you were going through that, I was just going to say, Nick Chubb, Amari, DPJ, Miles, there were these remarkable individual seasons last year that happened, but it was all done under the cloud of everything off the field. And so it was kind of like, can we just get through this? We were excited for the last 6 games for Deshaun, and then there's a little bit of rust to it. And so at that point, you're just like, let's just get to 2023. And so it's been we understand it's been a long wait for all of you. It's been a long wait for you and I. We want to get to September. We don't want to speed through August in the personal life side of it. But in terms of getting to see this team play football, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what they look like in Philly. I mean, I think you're going to we'll know a lot based on the way that one goes.
I agree with that.
We felt like that.
I agree with that.
Last year, that there was, if that goes. If you can hold your own in the trenches with that group, then,
And you can match with their skill. You can throw the football on them. All of those things. We can pass block against that line, as you mentioned, in the trenches. yeah, that one's going to tell us quite a bit, and I think that one will be those are going to be that's a big week here, and I don't think it's. I'm expecting to go in there and have a positive vibe coming out of it. I don't think we're going to go in there and it not look good for us.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, I think that we can match player for player with anybody, honestly.
Yeah, that will be the first major measuring stick is then.
Yep.
Coming up next, you heard from AVP. We heard from Jim Schwartz. We'll hear from Bubba Ventrone. Conversation with Z coming up next. Just to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner, your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Daily. Very happy now to be joined by fastly becoming one of the great friends of this program, Brown Special Teams Coordinator Bubba Ventrone. Coach, welcome to game week. How you feeling?
Excited. Really excited to get going.
When you think back to your playing days, do you remember your first preseason game and what that meant to you, what you were thinking about, what you were feeling going into it?
Oh, yeah. I remember like it was yesterday. We actually played, I was in New England, we played at at Cincinnati. And, I didn't play at all in the first half. The first play of the second half on the kickoff, I come down, make a tackle, so I'm like all juiced up. The second play I get in is at a punt play. I was playing gunner. I illegally aligned. I wasn't on the line of scrimmage. I released the wrong way, and I got hemmed up pretty bad. So it was not a good rep. So extremely high to extremely low, and then the rest of the game was okay.
So what do you tell these guys? Because I think there's something unique about for you being in the position you are, the fact that you were able to stay in this league for as long as you did, doing special teams, knowing that there are going to be a lot of guys playing for you, that these special teams performances and these 4 preseason games could be the difference between being guy 51, 52, 53 on the roster, being on the practice squad, or maybe not even being in the league at all.
Yeah, and I would say especially with like this first game, these guys are going to be playing a lot of reps, both on defense, right to special teams, offense, right to special teams. One of the biggest things I feel like is you have to focus. You have to really focus on your fundamentals, your footwork, and really lock in because you're going to be physically tired, which creates mental fatigue. Like, you have to lock in and be focused. Had that discussion with those guys today, so.
Yeah, and for most of the guys, I'm sure they have some experience, but for some of the guys in there, this is their first time probably playing special teams, right?
It is foreign to everyone. I mean, the young players have never experienced anything like the NFL kicking game. It's completely different than the college game. So the more reps that we can get these guys, today in practice we're going to have it'll be pretty much a live period on both kickoff, return, punt, return. The more reps we can get these guys where they're seeing it fast, the better.
Yeah, well, speaking of seeing it fast, I'll take us back to the Greenbrier. The first day in pads was a pad acclamation for everybody but the special teams unit because you guys had some of those one-on-one drills that I think were the most exciting thing we saw out there, perhaps even all week. When you see the hunger your guys have, and I'll go a couple young guys that stood out to me. Diabate stood out to me, and then Martin, number 69, was absolutely just trucking people. When you see guys willing to put their bodies on the line, bring that physicality, bring that passion, how fired up does that get you?
I'm getting like chills with you talking through it because the drill was good and we got a lot accomplished in that drill. You can see aggressiveness, physicality, technique, footwork, understanding how we're, using our blocking leverage. So it was good to have that drill. We're going to do a lot of that stuff, half line stuff when we go into punt and our protection stuff to make sure guys are protecting the right way. It was good, and those guys are everyone's working extremely hard to try to gain every knowledge for the techniques and schemes we're moving into.
When you have a guy like Jordan Kunashik, who you've already talked about is just such a professional at what he does, when you can see him and an undrafted free agent like Mahmoud Diabate go at it like that, have a back and forth, both getting great reps, getting great work, does that A, tell you a little bit about the young fella, but also B, to see that the seasoned vet he's taking nothing for granted at all, going out there and being a great example, I think, for everybody else.
Yeah, I think Jordan just does a great job of, understanding, first off, he understands that he's his role, right? He understands that every rep is critical, and he's a true professional. He's going to go out, execute as best he can, and he's going to come back and give the guy he's going against the same amount of work that the guy's giving him in coverage. So, really excited to work with him, so excited for it.
I know you are excited. All right, let's talk a little bit about the kicking game. That gets people excited. Cade York, what have you seen from him? Obviously, just a tremendous natural talent.
The thing that I've been happy with, both in spring and to this point after the first 10 days or so, the consistency has been really good. Not a lot of variation in his mechanics. He's keeping things simple, so that's been a big positive. The operation's been consistent, and that obviously makes it easier on the kicker. So those other two guys have done a really, really nice job, making it easy for him.
when you have that battery and that consistency, you know, with Charlie and then obviously Corey. We know Joe is here, but Corey had a very nice year for us last year. Set the all-time franchise record in punt average, over 48 yards a punt. But when you have that consistency, how helpful is that? I would imagine swapping the long snappers or swapping holders, that would affect a kicker year in and year out.
For sure. And, you know, we're getting a lot of work, and we want to make that operation as, like you said, we want that thing to be as consistent as it can be with as little variation as possible, and that's going to help us in the end.
As a longtime special teams veteran, were you always impressed? Well, I'm impressed. Maybe for you, you're like, yeah, whatever. At the ability of a long snapper to not only snap the ball accurately, but to get it so they can get like basically the laces exactly where they want it 8 yards back. Because to me, that just seems crazy.
It's time on task. It's reps. It's, you know, there's a lot of detail that's involved with that. You know, quarter rotate, like there's terminology that we use, and for him to be able to have done it so long and do it so well is impressive in itself. And then, I mean, when you talk about a snapper and the responsibilities, whenever you're talking about the punt, you know, you're not only are you throwing the ball back, but you have to protect and you have to cover. So it's not an easy position. It's definitely an underappreciated, you know, spot on the roster, I would say.
How excited do you see actual returns? Because in camp, like, you catch it, you take your first few steps, they kind of run through, and then that's it. But now you have a chance to actually see some returns. How are you feeling about the return game? And, you know, I don't know if we'll see Jakeem yet, but when you get a chance to work with a guy like that who's been an All-Pro, been a Pro Bowler, you know, how excited are you to see this return game actually go?
You're going to see a lot of young players this week, and we're excited about them. We're excited about the guys that are going to be able to block for them, and hopefully we can, you know, make some plays. The big emphasis in this game is play with good fundamentals and technique. Don't make it too complicated. It's an extremely simple game plan, and play smart and disciplined. Like, we don't want to have bad football is bad technique, which creates penalties. We don't want to have any penalties. So that's a big emphasis for us this week, and I'll hit that the next 2 days before we play.
Given that we have that extra preseason game, more reps for special teams, obviously, are you going to try anything out with some of the rule changes and kind of do some experimenting here?
I would say to be determined. Okay. I don't feel like in this first game you're going to see much of that. Okay. I don't. What I want to see right now is I want to see the young players that haven't had in-game experience get that experience. I want to make sure that we feel good about the fundamentals of block. I want to evaluate blocking, covering, you know, leverage, all those things. And I feel like if you're playing the game the right way, you can evaluate those things. I'm not trying to get gimmicky in a preseason game. So,
how do you feel like things are right now, coming out of that week at the Greenbrier? How happy or not happy are you with the state of your unit?
I thought it was a great spot to work. I think we got a lot done, not only as a special teams group, but as a team. I feel like our team became closer in that setting because of how Kevin had it set up. As far as our team in the kicking game specifically, I feel pretty good. I mean, everyone is trying to do the right thing. Everyone's trying to apply the corrections to the next rep, to the next practice. We haven't had a lot of repeat mistakes, which has been good in the first, you know, handful of practices. And that's going to be the thing trending forward. It's like, I had to talk with our players today. It's like we had a good week and a half, but it's not good enough. So we need to really lock in and focus and understand what we need to do to win each rep. So that's going to be the focus moving forward.
I love it. Can't wait to see you out there coaching your first game, albeit preseason, here with the Cleveland Browns, a team that you played for a few years ago. Coach, always a pleasure. Thanks for the time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we'll be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, a sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, right after this.
Hear that?
All right, back by popular demand, your favorite four-legged companion. It's year 2, Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the fan club for dogs. View membership options and join today at barkingbackers.com. As we go around the league, the Rams with a big blow here. Cooper Kupp underwent MRI in his hamstring. Team says he could potentially be back in a few weeks on that. So we've had Kupp, we've had Burrow. I think the Rams are one of the greatest. I don't know what's going on operations.
In terms of what they're trying to accomplish
Yeah, I don't know what
this
they're
year.
trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
what
if teams
they're trying
wanted
to
to trade for Stafford, why they didn't want to trade for him, it sounds like, look, Cooper Kupp's still going to be fine. Maybe it depresses his fantasy value a little bit, and I think that you're happy about that. I think most people feel like he'll be back for week 1, and if not, soon thereafter. The Rams are obviously going to be very, I think,
middling.
They're not going to be a great football team, but I think there's no rush on. Like, they're not going to rush him back. I think they will be judicious with that point.
Think about, they're clearly third in that division, right?
Yeah.
But they're definitely ahead of fourth in that division.
Yeah, because the Cardinals
are
taking. So they'll be third in the
Cardinals
division.
go at the bottom.
Yeah.
So they'll be third in the division.
My guess is McVay feels like this year in the NFC, if we can just hang around and be 9-8, maybe we make the playoffs.
He's saying healthy Stafford, right? Healthy Stafford, and why can't I go 10-7, 9-8? That seems like a tall order to me. But then you start going around the NFC, the AFC. I don't know their schedule, the Rams' schedule, top to bottom, just the conference.
Sure.
In the NFC South, there's only, oh gosh.
Yeah, look at him.
What's he going to be peacocking around on?
Look at him.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
What's it?
It's unbelievable.
Wednesday, dude.
It's Wednesday. That's fine Italian leather.
Of course.
And how does he keep those bottoms so white?
I'm curious about that. I always worry about that because I have a couple pair of like that type of shoe, not necessarily those, but that type. And I don't
look
know.
At the nation.
Look
at the nation. Just finished his schoolwork. Take a bow. Congratulations. Got it done. So proud of Baco. So proud. I love Baco.
What did he do that we're proud more other than just
he's been doing
being
some
Baco?
Schooling and he finished that all up
acquiring
and get it
education.
done. Yeah, just finished it all up.
Oh, what a great!
So on to great things is the great Baco. Winning.
Is it some sort? Is there a wipe that he would be using going back to swag to keep those things so pearly white, or does he never walk on dust?
It feels like he never walks on dust, and my guess is he gets home with that, and immediately it's an immediate cleaning. I think he's like immediately going
like a wipe
and working and wiping and making sure that he's keeping everything like completely 100%
or
pure.
Is he like Jordan and he just wears them once?
No.
One wear?
No. One wear and then out. No.
Then out.
No.
Oh, good grief. So in the NFC, who knows what the Rams are trying to be. Alvin Kamara expected to meet with Commissioner Roger Goodell today in New York regarding his potential suspension. Reached a plea deal in July, no longer facing felony charges for role in the fight on the eve of the Pro Bowl in 2022. That Saints operation is the one in the NFC South that feels like it could go a little bit. They'll be valedictorian to summer school, but that still gets you into the postseason.
Yeah. And I think the Falcons have a chance, even though I think that their first-round pick was not serious. And then I do have concerns about Desmond Ridder, but it doesn't feel like right now it's going to be the Bucs if the reports out of their camps are to be believed right now. It doesn't feel like – that's a team that I feel like could completely fire sale. Mike Evans could be playing somewhere at the deadline. And you saw what Aaron Rodgers said about why he freed up that money so that they can make a move at the deadline.
No, I did not. I missed that. What did he address?
He said the reason that he took that pay cut was he's here to win a Super Bowl. And basically he feels like at the trade deadline, that's when a lot of big names move in the NFL now, and he wants the Jets to have the financial resources to get a big name if that would help push them over the top. And so you think about, could that mean Devontae Adams, who wants to get back with him? Could that mean a Mike Evans, where you add him into Garrett Wilson, and all of a sudden you're saying, okay, this is a lot of fun. This is very interesting. So I think that's why he did that. But going back to the NFC South, it doesn't feel like Carolina is going to be serious, although we never know what Bryce Young is. By the way, I feel like I've never heard less. I've heard more about Anthony Richardson than C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young combined.
Some of that could be markets. Indy is a market that's covered a little bit more strenuously than Carolina. And Houston's a monster city, and I know that they talk Texans, but it's been so hopeless of lately. I wonder if they talk more like Texas A&M football or Astros and all that. I'm not sure exactly that, but no, everything that I've seen on when I do see something on Bryce Young, he looks great, like the stuff that I've seen in camp. And Stroud, I think he didn't throw a pick until Sunday. He went like several days without throwing a pick down there. Both of them are good to go. It seems like Richardson's going to be good to go. He got all 18 starter reps on Tuesday. To me, he feels like somebody just go play.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. I think they're just going to go out there and they're going to play him. I mean, Gardner Minshew's there if they need him, but yeah, I think that he's absolutely going to go and play. But yeah, that NFC South's wide open. The Saints do feel like they've got the most talent top to bottom.
Yeah.
You just never feel like you know what's going on with Michael Thomas.
He doesn't know. And then he got big. Like, do you see how yoked he is?
He's looking like David Boston.
Yeah, you can't. You get too big, man. Can't do it.
What about Jimmy Graham?
There's another one.
Is he really going to go play for the Saints? Is that real?
Is that the talk?
Yeah. That is the talk.
Jeez. Hey, how many people? I wish Gibby was here.
Why to do a guess the stats?
I'd like to do a guess the stats on Mike Evans.
Okay, what about him?
With how many 1,000-yard seasons he would think Mike Evans has in his career.
I believe that he has 9, and they are 9 straight, and he's the first person who's ever done that.
I don't think people would have that.
Really?
I don't think so. Unless, like you, like a fantasy person, I think would have it.
Yeah.
But I think if you were just a casual football fan, I don't know that you would know that he is the only receiver in NFL history to have 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons to start a career.
It's an incredible accomplishment.
He's a gold jacket.
I think so. This was something that we talked about when we played them last year, and that's another reason why I know that, because we played the Bucs last year. And that
I mean, the yards of reception numbers are unbelievable. 15.5, 16, 17, and 17.7, 17.3.
Yes. Yes.
It's craziness.
Yeah.
It's amazing. He was best with Jameis from statistically. He's unbelievable with Brady from a touchdown.
That year they threw it like.
They threw it everywhere. His yards per game, his yards went down with Brady, but his touchdowns were unbelievable, 13 and 14 in back-to-back years. It's interesting though, like it's 4 Pro Bowls,
1 All-Pro,
and just 1 All-Pro. So that's probably not Hoff. I guess the other thing we're going to have to do is we kind of have to wrap our heads. I mean, the sport's different.
This is a level though.
This is an unbelievable level.
Greatness.
Yeah,
that is pretty incredible.
For sure. And because of his build. It's 6'5". Like, he could do this for a while.
Well, and you thought he would break down, and he never seems to. And he was very good in the postseason. 4 touchdowns in his postseason career, 514 yards, 15 yards a catch, 4 touchdowns in 7 games. I don't know. I mean, they drafted him 7th overall, and I'll go back to I remember watching Johnny Manziel tape coming out of Texas A&M, and I'm just like, I thought at the time, I said, if you're going to draft him, you got to get Evans too. I mean, this Evan guy, basically it felt like a lot of their offense was run around, do something wild, and then throw it up, and then Mike Evans would just go catch it. He'd go moss people and then run around. I mean, he was so impressive. But to do what he's done at that size for 9 straight seasons, potentially, and I think this could be the first year where he falls under it. I think it's going to be tough to get there this year unless he gets traded. It's pretty wild.
I don't know what they're doing. Like, to me, if you're going to be bad, we know everybody by now. We know what Baker is. Like, you drafted Trask, go let him see. Go see what he is.
Either see if he's the answer,
and if he's not, then so what?
Fine.
Then you go back to Baker. You can play Baker down the road, and you can play out the stretch, whatever, and you draft a quarterback. But like, the most stupefying thing from a branding situation that's been done is not having those uniforms ready for Brady. Like, the fact that nobody did that while they had Brady is absolutely ridiculous.
Wild.
One thing we never got a chance to get to, let's do it right now. Who was it that made the beignets comment?
Jamal Williams.
All right, so Jamal Williams. Beignets, yeah. So he makes the beignets claim that they're overrated, essentially what he's saying.
It's a funnel cake.
It's a funnel cake is what he says. And you had texted and you had said this would be great on the show, and I agree that it would. I think my take on it is I think it is both overrated, and properly rated. What I mean by that is, would I want to have it? Look at that guy.
Tequila.
Right there.
Fila.
The legend.
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat a beignet every day.
No.
They're not that great on their own. But it costs you like $4, okay, at Cafe Du Monde. It's nothing. And in that moment, with a coffee and the powdered sugar and all of it, it's pretty good. You wouldn't want to have it. Look at the boss, man. There he is. Wonder how he feels about it.
I don't agree, though, that it's like a funnel cake.
It's not like a funnel cake.
Funnel cake's like little and wired all
airy.
together. And
a beignet is heavy.
A beignet, to me, is like a giant – if a pocket square became a donut, that's what a beignet is.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's pretty good.
I prefer.
It's not as it's tighter.
Yes, more dense.
More dense. Yeah, more dense than.
I prefer I would prefer a smattering of. You get like at Red the Steakhouse, for example, you can get those donut holes and then you dip them in your raspberry sauce. Like I prefer that to a beignet. But
so would I.
I enjoyed having a beignet at Cafe Du Monde in New Orleans.
That's right. It's the one place where it's like, it's the only place you ever see them. It's the only place that ought to really ever do them. They're good in that moment, and that's it. It's properly rated, and also, no, it's not like the greatest donut you've ever had in your life. I can think of 1,000 donuts I'd rather have over it.
And it's not a place that if you go down to New Orleans and you go there on day one of your trip, you're not necessarily going back 2, 3, 4, and again,
100%
you're
not
going
going back. You're going once,
and I think that's what he was saying. Like these beignets they're fine, but like you guys are making it out to be like it's changed the pastry game.
And it's not.
And it's not.
So I think he's right.
I do think he's right.
He's right and he's wrong.
And then he's like, well, that's not going to play well. Well, if you like the beignets. I mean, and Jamal Williams is so great. He gave the best interview of all time. Had an unbelievable season. Like how many people, if we played Guess the Stats, would give how many touchdowns does he think Jamal Williams rushed for last year?
It's like 16, isn't it?
I think I thought 17, but it's
way up
He
there.
led the league.
Led the league in touchdowns.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a second.
And he only had like 1,000 yards though, right? Or just under. Right at 1,000.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a 1,500-yard back, but he was basically got all the red zone stuff.
What I like about it is that they had Jamal Williams, and they're like, we're not – he had 17 rushing touchdowns, 1,066 yards, 17 touchdowns. We're not going to – he averaged 4 yards a carry. I mean, it's incredible. But they're like, we're not going to pay him. What we're going to do – and we're not going to pay a guy, DeAndre Swift, that we still have on a rookie deal, who, by the way, whenever he touched the ball was electric for us.
Isn't he in Philly?
Philly for
Good
nothing.
Lord, for
yes,
$1
of course.
for a bucket of balls.
Same with Rashad Penny. What we're going to do is hand out decent money to David Montgomery to come in and be Jamal Williams, I guess. And then we're going to use a first-round pick on Jamar Gibbs to be DeAndre Swift. And they obviously think that he's better than DeAndre
think he's
Swift,
better, but yeah, that's the operation. Florio reporting this. The NFL is considering adopting the XFL's kickoff style.
What does that mean?
As a possible replacement for the kickoff format, according to Mike Florio. I think this is when you put the two lines of scrimmage like 10 yards apart or 5 yards apart. Like instead of having that big collision, like you just put like all guys, 10 guys, and then the kicker goes way back and kicks it to the returner. And so you don't have those huge collisions. Yeah, this is it.
Okay. Feels like it lends itself, like if they get through one crease, they're gone because they aren't coming down like in kind of waves.
I like that, though. I mean, the kick, as you know, having been in that building, when you get a kick return or a punt return touchdown, it's about as loud as it gets.
Well, yeah. We did have a punt return touchdown last year, Donovan Peoples-Jones, which was our first since Travis Benjamin in 2014. We have not had a kick return touchdown since the great Josh Cribbs had 2 of them in a single game against the Kansas City Chiefs in the year 2009. So hopefully that would be cool to get one.
Been a minute. All right. Coming up next, we'll do a little better or worse. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner, your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
We're up.
Hey, Browns fans, you want to experience the 2023 Browns season, some of the best seats in Cleveland Browns Stadium. Visit lakecom.edu/Browns for your chance to win 2 field seats for the 2023 season, courtesy, you weren't on, Lake Erie.
Oh, baby.
Lake Erie College Osteopathic Medicine Sweepstakes ends August 30th. Time for a little game we like to call higher or lower, better or worse.
Or worse.
Top 25 players under 25 via Pro Football Focus, and Trevor Sikkema on that. And Stevie is ready. All right, buddy. So the debut on here on the program. I'm excited for you. I think you're ready.
Thank you. Uno.
Esteban is dead. Eaten.
He's been eaten. Swallowed whole.
Have you seen Life Aquatic?
No, I have not.
Right. Put it on your list.
All right, you got it.
All right, buddy.
I believe him when he says that, too.
I believe he'll do it.
Yeah, Gerard gave me some music the other day that I put on my list. I listened to all you guys on this. I got to learn.
All right, that's fine.
What a great
I like the attitude.
Refreshing
He's a
attitude.
go-getter. He's
go-getter.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about him. There's going to come a time. There's going to. We said yesterday.
We said it.
Esteban stock.
Get in on the Uno IPO. Do it.
Rocket ship.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Top 25 players under 25. Go ahead, buddy.
All right, so number 1 on the list is Micah Parsons.
All right.
Fine with that.
So then you would say higher or lower for Micah Parsons, and then you would give it to one of us.
Okay. Higher or lower for Micah Parsons? Start with you, Bo.
He's really good. It's hard to argue with their list because it's all their data-driven, so you're arguing against their data. I think the best player under 25 in the NFL is the guy right below him, however. I would take Justin Jefferson over Micah Parsons, even though they're both ridiculous. So give me Justin Jefferson over Parsons. Parsons slightly worserer.
All right, Z. Number 3 on their list, Tristan
he can weigh in on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's all right. We're all figuring it out at the same time.
I agree with
Dom's
you.
prancing around.
I will say that I think there are 4 players, actually 5 players on this list.
Oh, wow.
That might be in their own tier.
Oh, I love when we do this.
That's what I think.
I love a Z tier.
You love
I
a
love
tier.
a tier, yeah, because you're right. As soon as I knew where you were headed, then it's like, honestly, we take these 5 and they're a different level.
I think the different level tier is Justin Jefferson, 1. Micah Parsons, 2. Sauce Gardner, 3. Jamar Chase, 4. And Patrick Surtain, the second, 5. Surtain was elite last year, and those are at the most premium of positions. I think Tristan Wirfs is good, but I think right now you're talking about Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football. Micah Parsons is one of the top 4 edges in football. Is that fair?
Miles,
Nick
TJ, Bosa,
TJ,
Mike
Parsons.
I'd have him 4th of that on that list, though, wouldn't you?
I think so.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner might be the best corner in the NFL.
People
right now.
talk like he's the best corner in the football. That's what you hear. And he was a rookie.
Yeah.
So in that draft they got Gardner and Wilson.
Incredible job by them.
Jeez.
And they got another first round guy.
Breece Hall was in that draft for them?
Breece Hall was I think second round. They got the
Jermaine Johnson
from Florida State, defensive end. Yeah, I was gonna say defensive end, Florida State.
Sheesh.
He has not been obviously on that level. Jamar Chase is certainly a top 5 receiver in the league.
Yeah.
And then Patrick Surtain was unbelievable.
No, you're right.
Patrick Surtain was unbelievable. So I think those 5 are in their own category to me. And then you get kind of Tristan Wirfs, Creed Humphrey. What I don't understand is that it felt like Andrew Thomas was regarded as being the best in the league at tackle last year, and he's down at 10, and Wirfs is at 3. But he's in the next group along with like C.D. Lamb and Jalen Waddle. I think Waddle's really good. But I think there are a lot of good players, obviously.
It's a loaded list.
Yes.
To be fair.
Yes. Garrett Wilson at 19 feels like he won't be there next year.
Same with the guy right above him.
Trevor. They're both too loud.
Next.
All right, well, talked over a couple of these already, but we'll go to 14 with T. Higgins. Higher or lower for T?
Big T. Higgins guy. showed that he could be a receiver, the number one guy when Chase was out. But like right now, if you're saying, okay, Nathan, you get to start a franchise and you can have T. Higgins. I'm just going to go with people ranked below him. You can have T. Higgins. You can have Devontae Smith. You can have Garrett Wilson. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson.
Do that going
I think
ahead
he's
of him,
better.
though. Like, are we sure that, like, would you take for sure CeeDee Lamb over him?
Over T. Higgins?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a
Okay.
big CeeDee Lamb guy.
Would you for sure take Jalen Waddle ahead of him?
I think yes. I think they're different stylistically. Like
Totally.
I'd like to have them both, so I have the big
Compliment.
and the compliment. But I think Waddle's nasty.
No, I know. This is a ridiculous list.
Yeah, there are a lot
It's
of good
really
receivers in the
talented
league.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Higgins is a hard one, just because he plays with Chase. So how do you? It's hard to
Without Chase,
separate.
he was very good.
He was
Yeah.
great, but like, he's played with Chase when they've had Burrow. So
Yes.
other than Burrow's rookie year, so it's hard to say exactly how that whole thing shakes out. The thing that is staggering to me is the overall amount of receiver talent that is in this league right now at the highest level. There are game wreckers everywhere.
You know what I think's amazing is there's a ton of receiver talent. In fact, that's the position that dominates this list. You look on the defensive line, you have Micah Parsons. And I'm not sure there's anybody else. He's definitely the only edge. He's the only defensive lineman that's listed. There's some good young corners. I guess that means, is Quinnen Williams over 25 now in his fifth year out of Alabama? Yeah, he would have to be.
He would have to be, but also like that, like Chase Young didn't hit. He's been hurt and he didn't hit. He was the second pick in the draft. So there's been guys that were drafted high. They need Will Anderson to go.
You think about Nick
Houston.
You think about Nick Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
You think about Miles. You think about T.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, the best pass rushers in the league.
Joey Bosa was in that mix when healthy.
When healthy, yeah, sure. But like that's more of an aging group. Von Miller aging, Khalil Mack certainly at this point aging, Robert Quinn quite old.
Parsons is on an island a little bit.
Like Hassan Reddick, all those guys. That means all those guys in Philly are that age. Like Hassan Reddick. Yeah,
late
they're
20s.
late mid-20s.
Yeah.
So on one hand, you say, okay, does that mean that is there a paucity of young edges, or is it becoming a situation in this league where you need a little bit of seasoning to be dominant? Now, Nick Bosa, Miles, T.J. Watt did not.
No.
They were
Parsons
dominant right
was
away,
great
and
right
Parsons
away.
was great right away.
Where do Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson fit into that mix, being how young they are? Are they close?
Hutchinson has a chance. He had, 9 sacks last year?
He was really good.
Yeah, he was good.
Because that's like the next tier, right?
Yeah, he probably just needs to stack it a little bit. If he could stack a year and get to 15 and prove he's like a dominant edge.
Yeah.
That's probably where he's at.
Thibodeau only had 4 sacks. He's got a long way to go.
Yeah, Anderson is the guy everyone was kind of waiting for.
Yep, like as the next
as
big
the next
thing.
guy. I mean, he was identified young at Bama, and that Houston got him. So we'll see if he can be the next kind of guy. But he was in college football circles. He was the one everyone pointed to and said, when he goes, he goes.
Yeah.
There's a kid at LSU now as a sophomore named Harold Perkins that has that to him, where it's like when he gets there, that's the first pick in the draft if it's not a quarterback.
Yeah.
But he's only a sophomore. Next.
All right. Last one, we talked about the receiver talent. It's Drake London at number 20, higher or lower for Drake.
It's tough with him.
It's going to be tough to evaluate him. Poor quarterback play last year. He's going to have poor quarterback play this year, most likely. And he's a name that I feel like, from a talent standpoint, the size, the things that he did, people are very high on him. But it feels like with some of the guys that are coming into the league this year, that it could be very likely that he finds himself not on this list next season.
Well, they have Pitts right behind him. So they have London at 20 and they have Pitts at 21 on this list, which goes back to the idea that they went Bijan Robinson, and he looks great in camp, and I'm sure he is going to be
but not
great
a
player,
quarterback?
but to not find a
wild.
way to go quarterback and just be satisfied with Desmond Ridder when you have kind of the rest of it. One other thing on them, in retrospect, how much of a theft of that was Calvin Ridley?
Oh, my God. Well, we'll see.
I
but
mean,
it
he
feels
looks
like it's going to be.
electric.
Yeah.
I mean, he was always known as like one of the great route runners, like pure route runners.
He was awesome with Atlanta.
Right, and they got him for a bucket of balls.
Or nothing.
Zip.
Free.
He sat for a year.
Yep.
And now he's going to play in Jacksonville.
With Lawrence.
With Lawrence and Etienne and the rest of those cats.
Christian
and
Kirk.
It's like, why didn't Atlanta just sit on that?
Zay Jones.
Do you think it was like they just felt like they were wronged, or was it?
I think maybe they just felt, that
we can't tolerate it. He
quit on
betrayed
them
us.
before.
Yeah.
He's still on his rookie deal, mind you.
Yeah, he's going to be.
That's a good point out of you, Paulus.
Yeah. He's going to make a lot of money after this year, would be my guess.
Yeah, I think he's going to light it up.
I think he's going to have a very good
One thing, let's have a quick talk. Lawrence was 18 on this list. Trevor Lawrence was 18 on this list. The first thing here says Lawrence struggled during his rookie season, earning a 58.3 passing grade.
So what?
He was it's probably the most derelict of duties NFL coaching job in the history of the sport that Lawrence had to endure, what Urban Meyer did.
Yeah, Sean Payton, let's see him weigh in on that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the answer to that. I'd like for Sean Payton I'd like his comments on the fact that Urban didn't understand why they weren't trying to win preseason games. I would like Sean Payton's comments about how Urban went into a meeting room and went, "Who's this 99 from the Rams? We should try to get him." I told you.
Hey, it's all football. What's up with that?
How about the presser when he said, "Yeah, our goal is to be 250, 250. 250 run, 250 pass, yardage."
Okay.
You're not an Ohio State dude. Like, what are you talking about? 250 team rushing yards? I told you, though, I don't think he had ever seen an NFL game. Like, start to finish. Like, I don't think he had any idea. He was so bunkered in.
But how did he get hired?
Because when you're in a room with him, he's impressive. And he talks leadership, and he's straightforward. You ask him a question, you get a direct answer. Like, he's a leader of men. He's all those things. He won all those national titles, but he did not know the sport. Did not know the sport.
Well, that feels like a prerequisite.
But do you just assume that he does? Like, he must know the sport. Like, he's been so successful everywhere. How does he not know what the NFL is and how it works and salary caps? And
how do they not understand that the NFL is theoretically a level playing field, whereas in college you can make sure that your team is way better than everybody else, other than maybe 2 or 3 teams.
And you can do so by your own value. You are the recruiter.
You are the
doing
program.
The recruiting.
That's right.
You're the program. So you're in control of your roster entirely.
Yes.
I think Lawrence is going to have a great year. Great year. I think there's a chance. I would have them winning the South.
Yes.
I think they're going to do that.
Tennessee second.
They beat the Chargers last year in a playoff game. There's no reason for me to believe that they're not that we need another good AFC team, but they're going to be good.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I think they're one of the teams that I think probably feels like they can go deep into the postseason.
Yeah. Very good. Stevie, how do you think you did?
I feel like you did okay.
I think you did too.
Thank you.
We have it's a strong hard curve.
Yeah.
I think that
standard is the standard.
Standard is standard. I'm going to go a B- debut.
Okay.
So that's solid.
It's pretty good.
Lots that we can move up. Lots of room, but also right out of the gates prepared. What I like most about Esteban's debut, willingness, eagerness. I like that.
Commitment.
Give me a shot. Give me a shot, Coach.
Yeah.
I like that. Good job out of you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
I think it was better than a lot of Gibbe's performances, to be honest.
So much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. right, so for tomorrow, we will air the Jim Brown Celebration of Life. So that'll happen right around 1 o'clock. So you will have that. We will air that, and it's through the duration of it, the completion of it. That's about an hour and a half is kind of the way that'll go. So we will be here to guide you through that. We're not sure exactly the logistics of all of it.
We don't know what's going on.
But that we will have it. It will be good, I'm certain. And we will have that, and then we will have the game tomorrow down in Kent with you and Jim and Gerard on the call on that.
Yeah, can't wait. It's unbelievable that it's here. We're the first ones to get to experience it, us and the Jets, and so very much looking forward to it. And obviously, so wonderful to hear from Jim Donovan earlier today. So wonderful to see him, and then tomorrow to get to be back in the booth with him. I can't wait. Here we go.
Is this your first Hall of Fame game?
In attendance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, it's something that I'm sure, like for you as a kid, like you were so hungry for football around this time as a kid that we always watched it.
Yes.
And it's going to be surreal to be down there
as a part of it and to see all the luminaries around.
We know that guy.
Yeah.
He's down there.
There's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of that. We know that guy.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun, the start of what should be a magical weekend for the organization, most especially for Joe
for the Hoff.
and the rest of it and his wonderful family. But this is it's going to be a fun time down there. I imagine that what you're going to have is the Browns invade Stark County and Canton, and it's going to be
1 minute.
So it should be a lot of fun, certainly. So we look forward to that. So remember, tomorrow around 1 o'clock, Jim Brown Celebration of Life. We'll be here to help guide through some of that. And then the game tomorrow, going to be a lot of fun and what should be a great weekend. Good job out of you, buddy. Good job out of you, Stevie. Excellent work.
Esteban.
Next level's coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, ESPN Cleveland.
You're down, Greg.